thank you for being here. Again, I'm Jennifer Eubank, part 4 of my Hips Don't Lie series. And you're welcome to go back and see our archives. You can see any of the videos that any of our teachers have been filming over the weeks. So feel free to check out our archives. Feel free to check out the first 3 parts of my Hips Don't Lie series. So in the past couple of weeks, we've talked about opening the hips, because the hips carry a lot of tensions, a lot of angst, a lot of stress. So much of our motion goes through the hips, and so much of our emotions get kind of tied up with that, depending on what we're doing as we motivate and manipulate our hips. So it's really important that we are careful as we open up our hips. We don't want to just go willy-nilly and open up our hips without stabilizing them first. So I want to focus on both stabilizing and opening. Yes, it's great to open it, but if you don't stabilize first, you can create more problems in your hips. So let's start in a basic pose. Standing pose. Have a block on hand just in case. Actually, we will definitely need a block. So have a block or a soup can or perhaps a big book, something like that. And come into mountain. And find those basic lines of your mountain. Your shoulders over your hip joints over your knee joints, and your knee joints over your ankles. And feet are about hip width distance apart, and the feet should be pretty parallel to one another. And everybody's body is shaped differently, so you go with what feels right in your body as you stabilize your mountain pose. So we find those lines first, and then root into the corners of your feet and lift the arches and engage the muscles of the legs. Relax the knees, relax the hips as you draw the belly in. Lift the sternum as you relax the shoulders and soften your face. And notice how the structure of the feet transcends up into the upper body, mainly the hips. So the more stable the feet, the more stable the hips. And that can help you as you start to change things and lift those arms up and maybe out and back down. So stay rooted in those feet and lift up and then back down and out. Root into your feet. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, come out. And then next time, inhale your arms up. And then as you exhale, relax the shoulders and settle into this shape. And take a few breaths to really lengthen both sides. Draw the belly in to protect the lower back and feel your hips, your ribs kind of lifting away from your hips on both sides equally. And then we'll curve to one side. And as you curve to one side, try not to collapse towards the side that's curving. Keep that side long as well as you curve into your half moon. And as you keep both sides nice and long, notice how that helps stabilize those hips. So we're not collapsing into the hips as we find our half moons. Inhale, reach up, lengthen both sides, keep that length as you exhale and curve to the other side. Keep the knees soft, the feet rooted. Next time you inhale, come back up, and let's just exhale those arms back down. Let's do this one more time. Inhale the arms up overhead. Exhale, settle in. Stay here for a few breaths. Settle into that rooted feeling in the feet and the legs, but find that looseness in your joints And next time you inhale, lift up, lengthen both sides, and as you exhale, curve, trying to keep both sides pretty long as you curve. Knees start to kind of lock for me as I curve, so I'm conscious about softening those knees as I curve. That keeps those hips pretty soft. And then we'll inhale back up. And let's inhale up and exhale to the other side. Lengthen both sides before you curve so that you're curving, not collapsing. Feel that length, especially in this upper side. Ribs are reaching away from those hip joints and hip structure. Let's inhale back up and keep that chest lifted, but the shoulders soft and the knees soft as you exhale the arms back down. Take just a couple of breaths to notice what's going on. So we're getting ready to do a couple of standing poses. The most well-known standing poses there are, Warrior 1 and Warrior 2. They're great ways to open up the hips, but they're also poses that you can actually end up doing some damage in your hip joints. So it's really important that you carefully examine all the steps of our warrior poses. So with that being said, we'll do lots of rooting and stabilizing in the feet and the legs as we move into those poses. So with that being said, let's do one more move and inhale, lift up, keep those feet nice and rooted, legs strong, hinge at your hips, and come all the way down. And as you come down, feel free to bend the knees and then just let your head hang. And I'll turn to the side. So we're in a forward fold. Feet are nice and rooted. Legs are strong. Knees are soft. Feel free to bend the knees as much as you need to in your forward fold. And really let that head drop and relax those neck muscles. And feel the strength from the feet going up the legs into those hips. Couple more breaths here. And then when you're ready, let's use an inhale to lift halfway up and come to this halfway point. And let's stay here for a few breaths. Widening the hips, widening the shoulders, widening everything between those two entities, as well as lengthening. So spine lengthens. Try to keep your head parallel, your face parallel with the floor. And it's okay if your knees are bent, but after a couple of breaths, maybe as your hips open, you start to feel more length in your hamstrings and you can start to open up those knees a little bit more. And then as you're ready, let's just lift back up. And then get your block. And let's do that same thing with wide feet with the block, and we'll start to do some movement to get the legs ready for our warriors. So take your block and put it on the front of the mat in the middle and step wide. Go about maybe 3.5 feet wide. And solidify those feet, solidify those legs, but make them strong, not rigid. Belly drawn in, lift your sternum, hands on your hips, and you can bend the knees a little bit if you need to. We'll stay here for just a few more breaths, lifting those rib cages up, away from those hips, bringing some space here, but keeping the shoulders nice and relaxed as well as those knees. And then as you're ready, let's do a half forward fold. And we'll make our way down to that halfway point. Keep those feet nice and active, knees soft, hands on the block. And as you land, maybe you need to change something in the feet. Mine are facing forward and they're parallel. Some people like to go a little out, a little to the sides as we do some side lunges. So you decide what those feet want to do. as you start your lunges. And start small. Just do some little mini lunges. And try to land in your heel, not in the front part of your foot, but land in the heel and feel the back of the body and your glutes and your thigh muscles working and protecting both the knees and the hips as we go from side to side, inhaling with one motion and exhaling with another, coordinating that breath with the movement. And notice your hips are probably starting to get a little bit more free and a little bit more open. Though try not to go past your edge, don't push it. You want to keep things more stable than open. Stabilizing is far more important than opening. We'll go a few more rounds, rooting into those feet as you go from side to side. Feel that length in that hamstring. Maybe linger on one side for a couple of breaths. Feel free to do that. And when you're ready, we'll meet in the middle. And maybe you need to heel toe those feet in a little bit. And then as you're ready, you can bend the knees and put your hands on your hips and really root into those feet. And hinge at your hips. Lift back up. Drop your hands. And then let's heel toe in for a couple of breaths. And just notice any change in your mountain from here. Notice if your hips are feeling a little bit more stable, yet a little bit more open and lifted after those side lunges. And then we'll get rid of this block. And let's go wide again. So we'll work from the wide side of our mat today as we find our warrior one and warrior two. So go wide. And then turn your feet to one side. So your front foot is going to go into a 90-degree angle and face that short side. And your back foot is going to turn not quite as much. And as you do that, turn to face the short side. I'm going to step forward a little bit. So as you turn, bring your feet out. Step your feet out. Find a nice little base there. So your feet are on railroad tracks, and your chest is facing forward, but your hips are kind of facing however your legs need them to face. So we don't want to force our hips to face forward. They're facing the way your legs need them to do. And then as you're ready, keep that back leg strong and bend your front knee. So we're building our warrior one from the bottom up. So once you've got that bottom half established, then you can go ahead and float those arms up. And once you're up there for a couple of breaths, maybe you can start to refine it. I just decided I'm going to bend my knee a little bit more, draw my belly in a little bit more, relax my shoulders. And by the way, if this hurts your shoulders, you can go wide, or you can even go into cactus arms. And then as you're ready, let's come on down and straighten that leg and turn the feet back to the front. So now you're back in the middle, and then we'll turn to the other side. So as you turn to the other side, your front foot faces the front side. Step your back foot out a little bit so you've got space and width between left and right. And then really stabilize that back foot and that back leg, and keep that back leg strong as you bend the front knee. And then once you've got that bottom half established, draw in your belly even more, lift your sternum, and as you're ready, float those arms up. And relax your shoulders as you reach up, and root into those feet, and root into those legs. And do so evenly. They're doing different things, but the effort is pretty even. One is bending and one is straight. Keep those hips stable by keeping the effort equal in those two legs. And then as you're ready, we can float those arms down and straighten that leg and turn back to the long side, and then you kind of have to shimmy your feet back into place and just take a couple of breaths in a wide mountain. And then let's do it one more time, and we'll add something to it. So we'll turn our feet to that first side and then step them out, root those feet, stabilize those legs. Make sure you're good and ready. Then start the work. Bend the front knee as you root that back leg. And once you're there, draw that belly in and float those arms up. And then check in. Do you need to change anything? I just felt a little tweak in my back, so I rooted a little bit more in my back leg. And then I know I'm ready to add some movement. So we'll inhale the arms up, and we'll exhale them down. And let's do that a few times. And try to keep that bottom half good and stable, effort even between the legs. The change is happening up top. We're stable at the bottom as we inhale up and exhale down. Feet and legs are even. Let's do one more. Inhale up and exhale down. And then let's go ahead and straighten that front leg and turn back to the front and shimmy those feet back in line, because as we widen them to turn, they're not in line when we come back. Take a couple of breaths here. Notice what's going on in your hips in relation to your feet, your shoulders, your ribs, and then we'll go to the other side. So turn to the other side, find that width, find that stability, take your time, don't rush it. Keep that back leg good and strong as you bend that front knee. So this hip is kind of pointing out that way, this hip is pointing out that way. My shoulders are pointing forward. And I lift up. Let's do a few of those moving warrior ones. Inhaling as you lift and exhaling as you lower. Keep the body good and strong and stable on the bottom half. Keep the shoulders nice and relaxed as you float the arms up and down. Let's do two more. The change in movement is happening up front, and there's a little change in movement at the bottom, and then I'm deepening. So every now and then I find myself, oh, okay, I can bend that knee a little bit more. But it's not wavering. That's not the change. The change is that it's just deepening and becoming more solid. So let's go ahead and straighten and bring those feet back in line. And then let's heel toe back. And let's do some warrior twos. So let's step wide again. And we'll turn our feet to that first side again. So the front foot turns out into that 90-degree angle. The back foot turns not quite as much. Our hips turn a little bit, but we want to keep our chest facing forward. And then as you're ready, put your hands on your hips and then start to bend your front knee. And as you bend that front knee, keep this back leg good and active. So the back leg doesn't collapse as you bend the front knee. The back leg is working just as hard as the front leg, just differently. And then as you're ready, you can lift up those arms. And then maybe turn your head and look over those fingertips. And as you're ready, we can bring those arms down and straighten that leg and turn those feet back to the front. And take a couple of breaths in your wide-legged mountain. Notice what's going on in your hips. And then as you're ready, we'll do the other side. So we'll turn our other foot out. It faces the short side of the mat. The other foot turns in, not quite as much. Root that back leg, make it nice and strong as you bend the front knee. And then when you've got that bottom half good and strong and even, so you're not leaning into this leg and you're not leaning back into that leg because that creates instability in those hips. Find that evenness, and then when you're ready, you can commence and bring those arms into it and go one step further and turn. And I just found myself kind of collapsing into this hip, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to back off of bending this knee. I don't need to go to my 100% warrior 1 or warrior 2 every time, especially if my hips aren't allowing it. Sometimes we approach our edges and go way beyond them and create problems in those joints. So listen to what the messages are sending you. Listen to what the hips are telling you. We'll go to the other side. This leg is strong as we bend that knee. And as you're ready, we can lift up into it. And you can turn the head if you like, but this time we'll do some more movement so you can keep your head facing forward, or you can move back and forth with the movement. We inhale as we lift our arms up, and we exhale back down into our warrior 2. And keep the legs good and strong and still, with just a little bit of give, so our legs aren't locked, our knees aren't locked. They're strong and stable. So we found some stability that keeps us strong, but that little sense of ease that keeps us flexible and moving and approaching our edges. Let's go one more. Inhale the arms up and exhale those arms back down, and spend a few breaths and notice, okay, after all that change, I'm still pretty solid in that lower half. And then as you're ready, we can bring those arms down and straighten that bent leg and turn the feet back to the front and stay here for just a breath or two. And then we'll go to the other side. So we'll turn that front foot and the back heel kind of turns out. And then as you're ready, just let the hips fall where they fall. Shoulders face the front as we bend that knee. I shouldn't say fall, I should say land. And once you've landed into a good solid bottom half, draw the belly in, lift your sternum, and use those muscles to help you float those arms up. Feel the ribs lifting from the hips, but find that equal length on both sides like we did in our half moons. Kind of hard to do because this leg is making this side do something a little different. And as you're ready, we can inhale, lift the arms up, and exhale the arms down. You can keep the head straight, or you can turn the head back and forth. For me, I feel more solid and stable in my legs if I keep my head still. Inhaling, lifting, exhaling, floating, floating up, floating down. Things are solid and stable on the bottom half. And then let's do one more. And then let's exhale those arms down and straighten that front leg. Turn your feet back to the front. And then let's heel toe just a couple of little centimeters in. Just kind of take some pressure off those hips. Let's put our hands on our hips and let's do a forward fold here from here. So solidify your feet, solidify your legs, feel the outside edges of your legs, feel also the inside edges of your legs. So use both sides of the legs to keep you good and strong, to hinge forward and keep the knees soft, and maybe stop at that halfway mark, or maybe come all the way down. And as you come down, you might want to take those hands down and really drop the head and relax the neck muscles. And if you need to change anything in your feet to keep things good and stable, meaning if you want to go a little wider or bring the feet out a little bit, feel the width in the hips and the length in the spine. And as you're ready, root the feet, bend the knees. Use an inhale to lift up to this halfway mark. Stay here for a couple of breaths. And then as you're ready, lift up. And as you're ready, let's heel toe, back into mountain pose. And take a few breaths and just notice what's going on in your mountain, what's going on in your basic body, your skeletal structure, your musculoskeletal structure. Notice what's going on in your hips. Take your mind into those hips for a few breaths and breathe into them. Maybe close the eyes. Give your hips a nice little massage with that breath. The fronts, the sides, and the backs, all around. And if you'd like to do some more yoga, you're well primed for some more yoga. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and end here. Again, I'm Jennifer Eubank. Thank you so much for being here. My Hips Don't Lie series, and I believe we'll be doing at least one or two more in this series before we move on to some other issues. So thank you for being here. Again, the YouTube channel, our Sun and Moon YouTube channel, we are here every weekday morning from 10 to 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. So we hope to see you again. Thank you so much. Namaste.